part 2 of our Telemon adventure, because every single Christmas needs red, green and blue, right? So if that seems out of context, this was an initial release during the Advent calendar, so on the run up to Christmas, 24 releases, 24 days. Don't say, you can never call me a Scrooge. Okay, so to begin the stages here, we need Cabalite Green, or something similar. Boreal Tree Green from Scale 75 would also work excellently here. And this is airbrushed into our shadows. Why the hell are we using green? Well, it's a cool colour, which we will then overlap with a warmer tone. The green will desaturate the hull red we'll place on top of this, giving a much deeper, darker appearance to the gold. It's much more beneficial than just using layers of brown, which can look quite disinteresting. It will end up looking like a dirty copper coin rather than this amazing, lustrous beast of a vehicle that this thing is, with a portion of it apparently sculpted by the Emperor's own hand. I wonder which part. I'll leave that to you. So I would go back to your original photograph that we took at the initial stage underneath that strong light source and sketch in the shadows that we see there. Don't be afraid, don't think that this will spoil the vehicle, and have a little faith that the hull red will, overlapping this, will knock back the very, very admittedly weird looking gold we have going on. Let's get rid of some of this craziness, shall we? Hull Red by Hull Red by Vallejo Air. Very important we get that right. It is Vallejo Air that does this paint, and we can only get it through Vallejo Air. For whatever reason, the model colour equivalent looks slightly different. So I would advise you, even in your regular brushwork, to pick up this colour. It makes non-metallics look incredible. It makes metallic golds look incredible. We want to overlap the green that we've just applied and push it into the mid-tone. So if the green was the darkest portion of our shadows, the lower shadow, the darkest recess, this is being pushed up into the lower mid-tone and bumping right up against the mid-tone. It warms up the gold, it adds contrast, and it deepens the shadow we're able to produce on top of the green. But don't take my word for it. Have a look at what happens in the video. This isn't magic. This actually happened, and it will work for you as well. I would not do this on a Telemon Dreadnought to begin with. Something I find with my students is that they apply the green slightly too strongly at the beginning stage, and it's quite hard to bring that back. We need very light, thin glazes, pigmentation. We need a slight change to the underlying hue. We aren't trying to airbrush a colour one on top of another. We're trying to pigment the other underneath layer with the green. The red, the hull red here, is to overlap that, knock back any unusual green instances, and just develop a deeper shadow across the entire vehicle. Now, hull red is amazing for this kind of work because it's semi-translucent. It has a slight satin finish to it, and you, like working with inks in many respects, you can see the underlying colour you're airbrushing on top of. So you can see that slight metallic twinge, the change that we're trying to make. Hull red is a beautiful colour to use. If you don't own it already, I would highly suggest that you run to your local FLGS and go grab it. Apply 2 to 3 layers until you are fully satisfied with the end result. We've knocked back the green. There may be a few green hints here and there. That's quite nice to leave in there as unusual reflection points. But on the whole, we need to knock it back. Next up, Elendil Violet. You can substitute Elendil Violet for Violet Ink from Scale 75, from Winsor & Newton Plum maybe, or we can use the Games Workshop Druchii Violet. Completely up to you. Now, I don't really know the technical reason why Violet works so well with gold. Normally I'll come up with a response, right? It's to do with colour theory, to do with complements. I have no freaking idea here. It's a case of monkey see, monkey do. I saw somebody else do this years ago and it worked so well, I've been employing it in my own work ever since. You take purple and you overlap this into the very, very darkest recesses of the vehicle. Just thinking off the fly here, one of the reasons why this may work is because the green underneath. Green is opposite on the colour wheel to purple, acts as a complement. Should we go with that? Yeah, let's go with that as an explanation. For whatever reason, whatever technical reason you could dream up, adding violet or purple to the shadows of a golden surface makes that golden surface look freaking incredible. Give it a whirl yourself, even if it's on your own custodies that you've hand brushed and you're coming to this Patreon for the first time, you have never seen a tutorial and you're watching this for the first time. Pick up one of your golden miniatures, take your Druchii Violet and very carefully wash that into the shadows of the gold. And just look back amazed like, wow, that actually works. I had that same reaction the first time I saw this in action. Like, oh, holy God, this actually works. Next up we have the oils. For this I'm using a combination of Lamp Black and good old Burnt Sienna by Winsor & Newton. Alternatively you can use Daler Rowney, but make sure it is artist grade oil paint. Accept no substitute, and make sure it is oil paint and it isn't water soluble. After removing the wilder masking fluid, we can go on to pigment the shadows. In this case I'm using a pin wash. There will be a video dedicated to this during the Advent series on this particular subject. We are applying the oils to a piece of cardboard first, and then when we mix in thinner with the oil paints, we want the consistency of drawing ink. So it's a very thin malleable layer that when we just touch to the surface of the miniature, it will run into all the gaps and recesses. To aid your life, to make your life a little easier, before the oil stages, add a layer of gloss varnish across the entire thing. Once the oil paints have been allowed to dry, we can take some cleanup sponges, makeup cleanup sponges. In all honesty, you don't really need to wet them with the thinning agent. If you want to completely remove it, you absolutely can, but in this case I just want to rub it against the surface to give a textured appearance, like dirt and grime is built up in the recesses. I'm removing any excess oil paint. I will remove anything from the gun barrels, the metallic objects, and I will also be correcting any mistakes made in the oil process. So you may see a few overlaps, you may see some splurging now and again. Very easy to correct with just a clean brush or a brush with some thinner in there. Okay, and that's it for this video. We'll get on to part 3 soon. Okay, onwards and upwards to part 3.